Damn fool!
The city breathes in static and exhales fire. Beneath its glowing skyline, I ride low, fast, and locked in. Each mile is a gamble rubber on asphalt, heart pounding like bass in the trunk. The city never sleeps, and neither do I. Neon signs blur into streaks as I weave through traffic like a shadow, unseen but felt. Every alley, every shortcut is familiar territory, a map etched in instinct. The night air is thick with tension, the kind you taste in your throat. I'm not just moving, I'm surviving, thriving, riding the edge of chaos with every red light run and curve leaned into. Out here, there are no rules, just rhythm. The road is my only rival. And it never plays fair. But I don't want fair. I want the fight. I want the fury. I want the city to remember my name every time tires scream against pavement. Driven by design, Atlanta's love affair with asphalt and ambition. The city that drives itself. Atlanta has never just moved, it's always been in motion, stretching outward like a living thing. Born as a railroad town named Terminus, it was destined to become a transportation hub. But as steel rails gave way to rubber tires, Atlanta transformed from rail-centric to road-obsessed, perhaps, more than any other American city. This is the story of a metropolis shaped not just by its people or its politics, but by its pavement. Terminus to traffic. Atlanta once had one of the South's largest electric streetcar networks, operated by Georgia Power. But the rise of the automobile and a nationwide shift toward car-centered planning saw the streetcars dismantled by the 1940s. People were promised freedom in a car, and they bought in. The highways came like thunder. Between 1950 and 1975, Atlanta laid down its automotive legacy in concrete. Interstate highways 75, 85, and 20 were blasted through the city's core. These roads would fuel growth, connect suburbs, and tear apart communities. The creation of the downtown connector. The I-75-I-85 downtown connector is one of the most congested highways in the country. It carries over 400,000 vehicles daily. But few remember how it displaced thousands of black families in neighborhoods like Buttermilk Bottom and Sweet Auburn. Highway building in Atlanta was deeply political. White suburbs supported expansion but resisted mass transit. The car became not just a tool of mobility, but a gatekeeper of class and race. White flight on four wheels. Post-war America fell in love with the suburbs, and nowhere was this more pronounced than Atlanta. By the 1970s, suburban counties like Cobb and Gwinnett were exploding with development. The automobile was king. To connect them all, I-285 the perimeter was built. It was originally meant as a bypass, but soon became a main artery of commuter traffic. It is now a chaotic loop with its own ecosystem of exits, congestion, and logistics centers. Commuting culture. Living outside the city and commuting inward became a lifestyle. But as more cars flooded the roads, travel times skyrocketed. Traffic became a defining feature of Atlanta life, memes, complaints, and all. If you've ever left an Atlanta Falcons game and made it home by midnight, you know you were blessed. The train that could have been. In the 1970s, Atlanta took a bold step to build a regional transit system. MARTA, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, was envisioned as a massive rail and bus network across metro counties. But racism and anti-urban sentiment derailed those plans. Suburban counties voted no, fearing MARTA would bring undesirable elements, a thinly veiled code for Black Atlantans, into their neighborhoods. As a result, MARTA was confined mostly to Fulton and DeKalb counties. Today, MARTA remains underfunded and underbuilt while road traffic balloons. The irony? Many suburban voters now regret their anti-MARTA stance, as their daily commute clocks in at 90 minutes. ATL jammed. By the 1990s and 2000s, traffic wasn't just an inconvenience, it was Atlanta's defining trait. The city regularly ranks in the top 10 worst in the U.S. for congestion. Freaknik and the traffic gridlock in Atlanta. In the 1990s, Freaknik transformed Atlanta's streets into a festival and a traffic nightmare. What began as a small spring break gathering for students from HBCUs exploded into a massive, citywide party attracting over 250,000 young people annually at its peak. As the event grew in scale, so did its impact on Atlanta's traffic infrastructure, which was never designed to handle that level of spontaneous congestion. Downtown and midtown Atlanta became gridlocked for entire weekends. Intersections were blocked, highways slowed to a crawl, and residential streets turned into parade routes. The city's lack of public transit alternatives meant everyone came by car, often cruising slowly to see and be seen. Law enforcement struggled to control the chaos, and emergency services were frequently delayed due to jammed roads. Local residents and officials complained of blocked access, delays, and public disorder. Businesses closed early. The city ultimately cracked down with curfews, road closures, and police checkpoints, effectively phasing out the original event by the late 90s. Freaknik exposed how vulnerable Atlanta's car-centric infrastructure was to mass, unplanned gatherings, and how deeply culture, traffic, and urban policy intersect in the city's history. Atlanta's snowpocalypse, the day a city stood still. On January 28, 2014, just 2 inches of snow shut down one of the busiest metro areas in the United States. What should have been a minor winter storm turned into snowpocalypse, a historic gridlock that brought Atlanta to a complete standstill and exposed deep vulnerabilities in the city's infrastructure and planning. The chaos began when snow started falling mid-morning over a sprawling city unaccustomed to winter weather. With schools, offices, and local governments underestimating the storm, tens of thousands of people were released onto roads at the same time. Within hours, Atlanta's infamous traffic snarls devolved into a crisis. Highways like I-285 and I-75 became frozen parking lots. with cars stretching for miles. Drivers were trapped for hours, some for more than 20, hundreds abandoned vehicles on highways. Children were stranded overnight in schools. Emergency services struggled to reach people in need due to icy conditions and gridlock. The Georgia DOT and local governments faced harsh criticism for the lack of pre-treatment on roads, delayed communication, and poor coordination. Atlanta's car-dependent design only magnified the disaster. Limited public transportation options meant nearly everyone relied on private vehicles. Suburban sprawl stretched commutes long distances, turning what might have been a manageable weather event into a citywide collapse. The lack of snowplows and salting equipment further paralyzed the region, as local officials scrambled to respond to a storm they had failed to adequately prepare for. Social media exploded with stories of people walking miles to get home, businesses opening their doors to stranded drivers, and strangers helping strangers. Chick-fil-A even became a symbol of Southern hospitality, handing out free food and water to those stuck on the roads. Snowpocalypse wasn't just a weather story, it was an urban planning reckoning. In its aftermath, city and state agencies invested in better weather modeling, emergency coordination, and pre-treatment strategies. But for many, it also raised deeper questions about Atlanta's dependency on cars, the fragility of its infrastructure, and the need for a more resilient, transit-diverse future. 10 years later, Snowpocalypse remains a defining moment in Atlanta's modern history, a reminder that even a dusting of snow can bring a booming metropolis to its knees when planning and design fall short. Atlanta's streetcar, a short ride through big ambitions. Atlanta's modern streetcar is a sleek, electric vehicle gliding through downtown streets, but beneath its futuristic look lies a complex story of ambition, criticism, and a city still figuring out how to connect itself. Launched in December 2014, the Atlanta streetcar was the city's first foray back into rail-based transit since the original streetcar system was dismantled in the mid-20th century. It was meant to be the beginning of a larger network, a key piece of a vision to link neighborhoods, boost tourism, and reduce downtown car dependence. The initial loop is just 2.7 miles long, connecting the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Park to Centennial Olympic Park, with stops near the Georgia State Capitol Woodruff Park and the Sweet Auburn District. Funded in part by a $47 million federal grant and over $70 million in total investment, it promised to revitalize corridors like Auburn Avenue once, a thriving center of black business and culture. But reality hit hard. From the start, the streetcar faced criticism over poor ridership numbers, irregular service, and operational mismanagement. Annual ridership dropped significantly after the first year, especially after the city began charging a fare. Audits revealed maintenance lapses, staff shortages, and safety violations. Skeptics saw the project as a political showpiece, train to nowhere that failed to deliver meaningful transportation value. Yet the streetcar wasn't without merit. It spurred real estate investment and pedestrian traffic in parts of downtown, and gave tourists and locals alike a glimpse of what a walkable, transit-friendly Atlanta could look like. It also reignited conversations about urban mobility, equity, and the future of public transit in a city historically built around cars. Now operated by MARTA, the streetcar is preparing for a potential expansion along the Belt-Linea multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project envisioned as a 22-mile loop of parks, trails, and light rail encircling the city's urban core. If the streetcar connects with the Beltline as planned, it could evolve from a misunderstood pilot into a backbone of Atlanta's next-gen transit system. Still, the streetcar story is a cautionary tale. Big ideas need execution, not just excitement. Atlanta's challenge isn't dreaming of transformation, it's building systems that actually serve the people who need them most. The tracks are laid. The future now depends on whether the city stays on course. Atlanta's interstate system past foundations, present congestion, and future moves. Atlanta's identity is inseparable from its interstates. Like veins through the body of the city, they carry millions of drivers daily and shape where people live, work, and travel. But what began as a post-war vision of connectivity has evolved into a traffic-choked labyrinthine that city leaders, planners, and residents are urgently trying to reimagine for the future. The roots of Atlanta's interstate system date back to the 1950s, when the Federal Aid Highway Act supercharged infrastructure across the U.S. For Atlanta, this meant 3 major arteries, interstates 75, 85, and 20 converging right in the heart of downtown. Later, the addition of I-285, the perimeter, offered a ring road to help bypass the central business district. The goal was to position Atlanta as a hub of the modern South, accessible from every direction. But these highways didn't just shape geography, they altered communities. The construction of the downtown connector, where I-75 and I-85 merged, decimated historically Black neighborhoods like Buttermilk Bottom and Sweet Auburn. Homes were razed, families displaced, cultural centers erased in the name of progress. In the decades that followed, suburban expansion outpaced infrastructure improvements. Metro Atlanta exploded outward, and with limited public transportation, the interstates bore the full weight of the region's growth. Today, Atlanta ranks among the worst cities in America for traffic congestion. The connector regularly sees more than 400,000 vehicles per day. Commute times stretch beyond an hour in many outer counties. But the future is not standing still. Managed lanes and smart corridors. Georgia's Department of Transportation, GDOT, has been aggressively expanding toll-based express lanes known as managed lanes to ease congestion. These reversible lanes on I-75, I-85, and I-575 dynamically adjust toll prices based on demand, offering a faster option for those willing to pay. More expansions are coming, including new lanes on I-285 and an ambitious top-end express lanes. Project expected to complete in the 2030s. Meanwhile, GDOT is investing in smart corridor technology, real-time sensors, adaptive traffic signals, and AI-based systems to monitor and manage traffic flow more efficiently. The goal is to shift from just adding lanes to making the lanes already in place more intelligent. I-20 and equitable development. I-20 is also getting attention not just for congestion, but for equity. Many communities along this east-west artery were historically divided by the highway. Current plans are focusing on transit alternatives, community land trusts, and caps over interstates that reconnect split neighborhoods with green space and pedestrian plazas. The road ahead. Atlanta's interstate system reflects the city's ambition and its growing pains. But with major investments, new technology, and a shift toward multimodal solutions, the city is at a turning point. The question isn't just how to move cars faster, it's how to move people better. As Atlanta looks toward the next 50 years, its future may depend not on how wide the roads get, but on how wisely they're used. From terminus to transit, Atlanta's railroad, roots, and legacy. Before highways, before Hartsfield-Jackson, before MARTA, Atlanta was a city born from iron and steam. It wasn't rivers or ports that gave rise to Georgia's capital, it was railroads. In fact, the city's original name was Terminus, marking the spot where the Western Atlantic Railroad ended. That name wasn't poetic, it was literal. In the 1830s, Georgia's leaders envisioned a rail line connecting the Tennessee River to the Southeast's interior. Surveyors drove a stake into the ground at what's now 5 Points downtown, and a city grew around it. By 1847, Terminus became Atlanta, a name derived from Atlantic, symbolizing the railroad's reach. Throughout the 19th century, Atlanta blossomed into a regional hub, with tracks fanning out in all directions. The Civil War made it a strategic military target. In 1864, General Sherman's infamous march to the sea reached Atlanta's tracks and burned them. Yet the destruction wasn't the end. It was the beginning of Atlanta's rebirth. After the war, the city rebuilt quickly, leveraging its railroad links to become a center of commerce and industry. Railroads brought goods, people, opportunity, and segregation. Jim Crow laws were enforced aboard Southern trains, and many rail corridors doubled as dividing lines between black and white neighborhoods. In the 20th century, passenger rail began to decline as cars and planes took over. Atlanta's once bustling Terminal Station and Union Station faded into memory, replaced by the modern skyline and concrete interstates. But the spirit of connectivity remained. MARTA, launched in the 1970s, carried that rail legacy into the modern era, albeit on a much smaller scale than originally envisioned. Freight trains still roll through the city today, operated by giants like Norfolk Southern and CSX. And as Atlanta plans for the future, rail is re-emerging in bold new forms. High-speed rail proposals, the Beltline's light rail plans, and expanded regional transit all aim to revive the old idea that railroads can stitch cities and people together. Atlanta's DNA is rail. It was built not beside the tracks, but on top of them. As the city grows, it continues to wrestle with that legacy, blending steel, steam, and the dreams of what's next. From Terminus to tomorrow, the story of Atlanta is forever linked to the rails. That first put it on the map. Rails and ruptures, how Atlanta's railroads shaped its neighborhoods and people. Atlanta was literally founded on the railroad, but the tracks that powered its growth also carved deep divisions into the city's landscape and its communities. From the 19th century through today, the railroad's influence on Atlanta has been both a story of connection and disconnection, linking economies while separating neighborhoods, enabling mobility while entrenching inequality. As the railroads expanded in the late 1800s, they brought wealth and development to Atlanta's urban core. Industries clustered near rail yards, and neighborhoods formed around employment centers. But those same rail lines became physical and psychological boundaries. Tracks often split communities along racial and economic lines. Wealthier white neighborhoods developed on one side, while black communities restricted by redlining and segregation were confined to the other. One of the most striking examples is the Pittsburgh neighborhood, a historic black community in southwest Atlanta. It grew in the shadows of the railroads, home to workers who laid track, maintained trains, and labored in nearby factories. Yet the community was boxed in by industrial zones and rail corridors, limiting its expansion and isolating it from broader city resources. Similarly, The once thriving Auburn Avenue district, known as Sweet Auburn, was sliced apart by rail infrastructure and later by highways, weakening its social and economic power. Railroads didn't just divide neighborhoods, they also determined who had access to opportunity. Proximity to rail stations and freight lines influenced where business is located and where people could travel for work. But not everyone benefited equally. While goods and capital moved freely, Black residents faced segregated train cars and unequal access to transit and jobs. Entire communities were shaped by their relationship. To the rail, some thrived on its commerce, while others struggled with its pollution, noise, and neglect. In the 20th century, as rail declined and highways rose, many rail-adjacent neighborhoods fell into disinvestment. What had once been engines of growth became barriers to revitalization. Today, many of those same corridors are being reimagined, most notably through the Atlanta Beltline, which seeks to convert abandoned rail lines into parks, trails, and future transit. Still, the echoes of the railroad remain. The lines that once powered Atlanta's rise also etched long-standing patterns of segregation and uneven development. To understand the city's present and shape a more equitable future, we must reckon with the literal and symbolic tracks that still run through its heart. From airstrip to aviation giant, the history of Atlanta's airport. What began as a humble racetrack turned airfield in the 1920s is now the world's busiest airport. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, often simply called ATL, is more than a global aviation hub. It's a symbol of Atlanta's vision, strategy, and relentless momentum. The story begins in 1925 when Mayor Walter Sims signed a lease for an abandoned auto racetrack known as Candler Field, named after Coca-Cola magnate Asa Candler. Within a year, Atlanta had its first scheduled commercial flights, and by 1930, Candler Field ranked among the nation's busiest airports, a preview of things to come. During World War II, the airport transformed into a vital military airbase, laying the groundwork for its rapid post-war expansion. As the airline industry boomed, so did Atlanta's ambitions. By the 1950s, the city positioned itself as the South's transportation leader, investing in longer runways, larger terminals, and increasingly sophisticated air traffic systems. In 1971, the airport was renamed to honor Mayor William B. Hartsfield, a champion of aviation and desegregation. Under his leadership, Atlanta earned its reputation as the city too busy. To Hatea slogan rooted in economic progress and political pragmatism, Hartsfield had the foresight to make the airport central to Atlanta's future, attracting carriers like Delta Airlines, which would soon make ATL its global headquarters and largest hub. The 1980 opening of the new midfield terminal, with 5 concourses connected by the world's first airport people mover, marked ATL's arrival as a world-class facility. The expansion was bold, efficient, and future-focused, just like the city it served. In 2003, the airport's name was updated again to honor Maynard H. Jackson, Atlanta's first black mayor. Jackson had played a critical role in securing minority business contracts during airport construction in the 1970s, setting a national precedent for inclusive economic development. Today, Hartsfield-Jackson handles over 100 million passengers annually and offers nonstop flights to more than 150 U.S. cities and 70 international destinations. It's the beating heart of Atlanta's economy, supporting over 60 0 jobs on site and billions more in regional impact. But ATL isn't standing still. Plans for expanded concourses, new runways, and a modernized terminal reflect the airport's ongoing evolution. Sustainability initiatives, biometric screening, and intermodal transit connections are all in motion to meet the demands of a growing global city. From racetrack to runway, Atlanta's airport has been a launchpad for progress and a mirror of the city's bold, complex journey through time. Hartsfield-Jackson, the world's busiest gateway to the south. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport ATL is more than just an airport. It's a global gateway, a regional economic engine, and a symbol of Atlanta's rise as a transportation powerhouse. With a legacy that spans nearly a century, ATL has grown from a modest airfield into the busiest and most efficient airport in the world. Strategically located just 10 miles south of downtown Atlanta, ATL covers more than 700 acres and operates 5 runways and 2 terminals domestic and international, connected by the world's first underground airport people mover. The airport consistently ranks at the top globally for passenger traffic, moving over 100 million travelers annually. It also handles over 700 Cerritos takeoffs and landings each year, earning its title as the world's busiest airport for decades running. What makes ATL exceptional isn't just its volume, it's its connectivity. The airport serves as Delta Airlines' primary hub, offering non-stop flights to over 150 domestic cities and more than 70 international destinations across 6 continents. This makes Atlanta one of the most accessible cities in the world, with flights rarely more than a few hours from most U.S. destinations. Named after 2 of Atlanta's most influential mayors, William B. Hartsfield and Maynard H. Jackson, the airport reflects the city's deep roots in transportation, leadership, and civil rights. Hartsfield, a visionary who saw aviation as key to Atlanta's future, laid the foundation for the airport's growth. Jackson, the first black mayor of Atlanta, ensured that airport expansions in the 1970s and 80s included equitable contracting opportunities for minority-owned businesses, setting a national standard for economic inclusion. Beyond aviation, Hartsfield-Jackson is a major economic driver. The airport supports more than 60 AR0 on-site jobs and contributes roughly $34 billion in annual economic impact to the metro Atlanta region. It's essentially a city within a city with its own police, fire department, customs, retail, and dining. Looking ahead, ATL is embracing the future with aggressive modernization plans. These include expanded terminals, sustainability initiatives like electric ground vehicles and solar panels, and cutting-edge biometric screening systems for faster, more secure travel. Projects like ATL Next, a multi-billion-dollar capital improvement program, are designed to keep the airport running smoothly well into the 21st century. For Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson isn't just an airport, it's a launchpad for progress, connection, and ambition, reflecting the city's unstoppable energy and global reach. How roads and interstates have shaped Atlanta's economy. The roadways of Atlanta are more than asphalt and concrete. They are lifelines of commerce, infrastructure that has both powered economic growth and shaped the metropolitan identity. From the early days of the interstate highway boom to today's sprawling network of freeways and express lanes, Atlanta's roads have had a profound impact on its economic development, business landscape, and social fabric. Atlanta's transformation into an economic powerhouse began in earnest during the post-World War II era, when the city embraced President Eisenhower's vision for a national interstate highway system. The construction of Interstates 75, 85, and 20 along with the crucial I-285 perimeter was a game-changer. Atlanta quickly became a regional transportation hub, with its central location making it a natural crossroads for shipping and distribution throughout the Southeast. These highways supercharged Atlanta's appeal for businesses, With easy access to trucking routes and rail lines, the city became a magnet for logistics, warehousing, and manufacturing industries. Major corporations established regional and national headquarters in the metro area, drawn by its efficient transportation infrastructure and its proximity to the rest of the country. Companies like UPS, Coca-Cola, Delta, and Home Depot flourished in this environment, turning Atlanta into one of the South's major economic engines. The highway system also helped fuel population growth and suburban expansion. With the ease of commuting via interstates, people moved further from the urban core, into sprawling suburbs across counties like Cobb, Gwinnett, and DeKalb. This suburban boom contributed to a surge in construction, retail development, and real estate investment. Malls, office parks, and residential communities flourished, all supported by the promise of reliable freeway access. However, the impact of these roads has not been purely positive. The construction of major highways often came at a steep social cost. Neighborhoods, particularly historically black communities like Sweet Auburn, Summerhill, and Vine City, were divided or destroyed to make way for interstates like the downtown connector. Generations of residents were displaced, and economic disparities deepened in the areas severed from Atlanta's new economic centers. In recent years, worsening traffic congestion has become a critical economic concern. As Atlanta's population has surged past 6 million, daily commutes have lengthened, freight movement has slowed, and quality of life issues have emerged. Businesses now factor in congestion when deciding where to locate, and logistics companies must navigate delays that cost both time and money. According to a 2023 study, congestion in metro Atlanta costs the economy nearly $4 billion annually in lost productivity and fuel expenses. To address these challenges, Georgia has invested in solutions like toll-based express lanes, smart traffic signals, and major interstate expansions. Projects like the transformed 285-400 interchange overhaul and the upcoming top-end express lanes aim to alleviate bottlenecks in high-traffic corridors. These improvements not only benefit commuters, they are critical to keeping freight and commerce flowing efficiently throughout the region. Furthermore, there's a growing emphasis on multimodal development. Transit-oriented projects like the Beltline and MARTA expansions reflect a shift in how Atlantans view mobility. By integrating roads with rail, bus, and pedestrian systems, the city hopes to reduce car dependence and promote sustainable economic growth. In conclusion, the roads and interstates of Atlanta have long been the backbone of its economy, spurring growth, attracting business, and supporting regional connectivity. But they've also left a complex legacy of inequity and congestion. The city's future prosperity will depend not just on maintaining these vital arteries, but on reimagining them for a more inclusive, efficient, and forward-looking Atlanta. Cruising through the heart of the South, my ride around downtown Atlanta. Riding through downtown Atlanta is more than just a drive. It's a journey through time, culture, history, and hustle. The city pulses with a rhythm that's equal parts Southern charm and big city energy. And today, I took the time to soak it all in behind the wheel. If you've ever wanted to get a feel for the real Atlanta, you've got to experience it from the streets. I started my ride near the Georgia state capitol. The gold dome gleamed under the morning sun, standing tall as a symbol of political history and civil rights battles. From there, I eased down Memorial Drive, past historic Oakland Cemetery, where some of the city's most notable figures rest. The road curved and carried me into the heart of the city, and suddenly the skyline unfolded in front of me like a concrete symphony glass, steel in motion. As I approached 5 Points, the original center of Atlanta, I could feel the weight of history. This is where the city was born, where railroad tracks once met at a single wooden marker, sparking the rise of Terminus, the town that would become Atlanta. Today, it's a blend of past and present. With students from Georgia State University walking alongside vendors, business people, and artists, traffic downtown is its own experience. Cars, buses, scooters, pedestrians, it's organized chaos. But if you know how to move with the flow, you'll find beauty in the rhythm. I cruised past the underground Atlanta area, once a bustling hub of shopping and entertainment, now a site for urban redevelopment and cultural revival. There's something poetic about a city constantly reinventing itself. I turned onto Peachtree Street, yes, one of the many Peachtree-named roads in Atlanta, and rolled past iconic spots like the CNN Center and Centennial Olympic Park. The park is still a beautiful tribute to the 1996 Olympics, with the Fountain of Rings dancing in sync to the music, and kids running through the mist. It's a place that captures the spirit of community and global pride. From there, I drove through the fairly popular historic district, with its early 20th century buildings and vintage storefronts. It feels like Atlanta holding hands with its past. Then I rolled by the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the modern-day Coliseum that roars every time the Falcons or United take the field. Just across the street, the Gulch, a once-forgotten expanse of concrete, is now being transformed into a multi-billion-dollar mixed-use development. What struck me the most on this ride wasn't just the sights, it was the people. Atlanta is a city of stories. I saw street performers sharing their art, a food truck vendor waving to a customer he knew by name, and a group of skaters filming tricks near a parking garage. This is a city that's constantly moving, yet always rooted in a deep sense of community. As the sun began to dip and the city lights flickered on, I realized something: Atlanta isn't just a place you visit, it's a place you feel. Every turn, every block, every building has a story. Riding through downtown gave me a deeper appreciation for the heartbeat of the city and the layers that make Atlanta so unique. To everyone who joined me on this virtual ride, thank you for watching. I hope this trip through the streets of downtown Atlanta gave you a new perspective on the soul of the South. Whether you're from here, new to town, or just passing through, there's always something special waiting around the next corner. Until next time, ride safe, stay curious, and keep exploring. Welcome to the Fools Show Me YouTube channel, dedicated to capturing the raw, vibrant, and ever-evolving car show culture in Atlanta and the southern United States. What started as a passion project with a camera and a dream has grown into a platform that documents the automotive spirit of the South, showcasing everything from custom builds and burnout pits to lowrider meets and muscle car cruises. This isn't just a car show vlog, it's a front row seat to the movement. Atlanta has long been a cultural capital, but when it comes to car culture, this city is something else. It's where horsepower meets hip-hop, chrome meets creativity, and tradition blends with innovation. Every weekend, parking lots transform into stages, highways turn into catwalks, and drivers become artists. That's what the Fool Show is all about, bringing that energy to the screen and showing the world what makes the southern car scene so special. From the streets of Decatur to the lots of Riverdale and deep into Alabama, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Mississippi, the Fool Show travels to where the action is. I'm not just filming cars, I'm telling stories. Behind every candy-painted Caprice, every bagged Charger, every custom-detailed boxed Chevy, there's a builder with a vision, a crew with a vibe, and a lifestyle that deserves the spotlight. The show highlights the diversity of the scene. You'll see donks sitting on 30s, lifted trucks rolling coal, JDM tuners revving through tunnels, and old-school classics restored to perfection. And it's not just about the vehicles, it's about the people. Whether it's a young builder showing off their first project, or a seasoned veteran bringing their 10th build to a show, everyone has a voice on the Fool Show. What makes our channel stand out is the authenticity. We're on the ground, in the smoke, under the hoods, and in the crowd. No filters, no fancy edits, just real footage, real conversations, and real Southern car culture. I'm not here to judge or rank, I'm here to document, to celebrate, and to connect. And we're growing. From local meets to major events like Caffeine and Octane, Stuntfest, or the King of the South Car Show, the Fool's Show is becoming a trusted name in the scene. As we expand, the vision is to bring more interviews, deep dives into builds, behind-the-scenes looks at shops, and even ride-alongs with builders and drivers. At the heart of it all, the Fool's Show is about community. It's about documenting a culture that's often overlooked or misunderstood. The South has a rich automotive tradition, and we're here to preserve and promote a tone video at a time. So if you're into cars, culture, and that Southern flavor, hit that subscribe button and ride with us. This is the Fool's Show, where the streets talk and the wheels do the walk.